Chi was an overweight, miserable, and utterly pathetic loner who had the misfortune of being ridiculed by everyone simply for his appearance. One day, the almighty deity of their world made a grand announcement, gifting every individual a special power before hurling them into a brand new realm. However, in the grand lottery of abilities, Chi was the only one left out, making him the continued subject of scorn and mockery. Once the mass teleportation took place, the deity lingered behind and granted him a unique skill, one that allowed him to consume a peculiar fruit, triggering an unbelievable transformation that turned him into an irresistibly handsome man who would later marry a goddess. As he stood at the pinnacle of his journey, he found himself questioning how his life had spiraled into such an unimaginable outcome. After being transported to this unfamiliar world, Chi was plagued by relentless hunger, enduring 5 agonizing days without a morsel of food or a drop of water. Just as he was about to collapse, he spotted a worm wriggling nearby and desperately reached for it. Before he could grasp it, something struck him on the head, and his blurred vision caught sight of an unusual fruit ahead. Analyzing it with what little strength he had left, the appraisal system identified it as the fruit of evolution. Skeptical, he figured it had to be some kind of scam, but his hunger left him with no choice. Taking a bite, he immediately regretted it and vomited. A mysterious voice echoed in his mind, announcing that the fruit's effects were now activated. Panic set in as he braced himself for what he assumed would be his last moments. But to his confusion, nothing seemed to happen. Wandering in search of more sustenance, Chi stumbled upon a group of monkeys energetically dancing around. Using his appraisal ability, he examined them but couldn't determine their exact level. The creatures eventually left their camp, revealing an abundance of fruits of evolution scattered around. Wasting no time, he gathered as many as he could and stored them in his inventory, along with the most potent recovery potions in existence. Meanwhile, his former schoolmates were assembled together, not one of them sparing a single thought for his existence. As the week passed, Chi continued consuming the fruits of evolution one by one, until only 2 remained. Just as he contemplated his next move, the omnipotent voice granted him even more power-ups. However, before he could relish in his newfound abilities, the monkeys returned, enraged that he had stolen their precious food. With astonishing speed, one of them lunged at him, knocking him to the ground. Struggling to recover, he hastily drank an elixir, but the monkey launched another furious attack, ready to devour him. Unfortunately for the beast, even the system itself seemed repulsed by Seichi's overwhelming stench.
Okay, I get it. Great. Of course he's gonna eat me now.
In a cruel twist of fate, his foul body odor proved lethal, instantly killing the monkey. In the aftermath, a treasure chest materialized before him, containing a book. As he flipped through its pages, the omnipresent voice echoed once again, declaring that his evolution had officially begun. The next thing he knew, his bloated, unsightly body was gone. Memories of his bones snapping and his flesh restructuring flooded his mind as he realized his transformation was complete. With his body now lean and refined, the system boosted all his skills by 1,000, elevating him to one of the most powerful beings in existence. Yet, despite all this, his level remained stuck at 1. Determined to progress, he set out to hunt monsters, eager to raise his level and advance through more evolutions.
Instant movement!
Armed with inhuman speed and devastating guillotine kicks, he tore through countless enemies. However, no matter how many he defeated, his level refused to budge. Frustrated but undeterred, he resolved to continue stockpiling treasures and unlocking new abilities. Along the way, he stumbled upon legendary daggers and delved into ancient texts detailing the history of the wolves. His evolution begins again, and after a grueling week of hunting down monsters, he finds himself with just 1 evolution left. Before he has a chance to rest, he is once again encircled by the same group of monkeys.
Hello, human.
A towering red-furred monkey steps forward and challenges him to a fight. Chi, still exhausted, asks if he can just sit this one out, but the monkey immediately refuses, citing his hideous appearance as the reason he must fight. Using his appraisal skill, Chi examines the red monkey and realizes that it is an immensely powerful monster. Worse, he's completely surrounded, with no clear escape. Before he can react,
Almost done. Say goodnight.
Hey! Whoa! What are you doing?
the red monkey slams a massive fist into the ground, sending shockwaves in every direction. Chi, however, effortlessly dodges using his insane speed. The monkey stares in astonishment, completely taken aback. This is the first time anyone has ever survived its opening attack. Up until now, every challenger had been weak and unimpressive. Seeing Saichi stand his ground, the monkey is suddenly smitten with him. The battle rages on, and Saichi attempts to launch a counterattack. But in an instant, the red monkey vanishes, only to reappear right in front of him.
Dangerous.
Tell me about it, gorilla!
My turn. You ready? Here's
Delivering a devastating punch that sends him flying across the battlefield. The sheer impact nearly obliterates him, leaving him clinging to life with only a sliver of HP left. However, instead of finishing him off, the red monkey steps forward and introduces itself as Saria. Confused, Saichi questions why a massive beast like this has such a delicate-sounding name. He responds by swinging his weapon at her.
Not again!
But Saria effortlessly leaps into the air, praises his technique,
skilled.
Oh, you really think that about me?
and then dives back down in an attempt to end him for good. Realizing that his death is imminent, Saichi makes up his mind. It's time to unleash his true power. Channeling his magical abilities for the first time, he prepares a grand attack, only to have water dump all over him instead. Before he can recover from his humiliation, Saria launches a relentless barrage of punches, each one pushing him closer to unconsciousness.
On board for the road!
As he teeters on the edge of defeat, memories of his classmates ridiculing him and calling him a pig flood his mind. In this moment of desperation, he understands that he must come up with an ability that can turn the tides of this fight. Just as the final punch is about to end him, Saichi makes his move. He raises his arms and unleashes a repulsive, putrid stench. Saria's fist stops inches from his face. Instead of disgust, she looks at him with admiration, declaring that she has decided to take him as her husband. Saichi, completely baffled, struggles to comprehend how his life has led to this bizarre moment. This is nothing like the future he imagined for himself. Saria takes him back to her home, offering him food and insisting that he eat. Saichi tries to reason with her, explaining that he is a human and that marriage between them would be absurd. However, the food is so delicious that all his arguments fade away. As he eats, he notices Saria carefully stitching up his tattered clothes with impressive skill, resembling the efforts of a devoted wife. Saichi jokes that if she ever wanted to be a wife, she should marry a gorilla instead. Weeks pass with Saichi trapped in Saria's home, unable to escape her persistent affections. Frustrated, he begins plotting ways to break free. Just as he starts formulating a plan, Saria interrupts his thoughts, bluntly stating that he is far too ugly for a human girl to ever want him. Since he already resembles a monkey, he might as well accept his fate and date one. You're a victim. At last, the long-awaited escape plan is ready to be executed. With Saria momentarily distracted, Saichi makes his move. But just as he slips away, a massive spider emerges from the shadows. Before he can react, Saria launches a devastating punch, sending the spider soaring into the sky. She turns to him, eyes filled with concern, and asks if he's unharmed. In that moment, Saichi realizes something. Saria truly cares about him. Throughout all of this, she's been looking out for him, worrying about his well-being, and yet, he's done nothing but push her away simply because they belong to different species. Meanwhile, in the depths below, a lone skeleton sits motionless, lost in bitter contemplation. As days go by, Saichi continues to spend time with Saria. However, one day, Saria makes a shocking confession. She has been searching for the fruits of evolution to give to her future husband. Saria then explains the true nature of these fruits. They grant their consumer the power to ascend to the pinnacle of their race. But there's one fatal condition. If they have already eaten even a single one, they will die. Without hesitation, she declares that she will personally eliminate whoever dared to steal them from her. Heart-pounding, Saichi immediately drops to his knees, begging for his life. But to his horror, his desperate plea only fuels Saria's determination to marry him. When he yells in defiance, adamantly rejecting the idea, she pauses and asks if he truly hates her. He hastily assures her that he doesn't hate her. With a bright smile, she declares that it's time for their wedding. The moment she steps away, Saichi seizes his only opportunity for freedom. Without looking back, he bolts into the dense forest, determined to escape once and for all. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, the god of this world has gathered all of Saichi's former high school classmates. He informs them that they alone possess the overwhelming power necessary to defeat the demon lord that threatens this world. However, despite their immense potential, weeks pass with nothing but relentless training. Their commander refuses to let them advance until they are fully prepared, making it clear that they would only meet a swift demise if they rushed headfirst into the wilderness untrained. Back in the forest, Saichi continues his desperate flight for freedom, but Saria has finally caught up to him. Sprinting at a terrifying speed, she charges forward like a rabid beast, her voice ringing through the trees as she shouts for him to stop. Saichi, refusing to be her captive any longer, taps into his instant movement ability and vanishes in a burst of speed, putting an enormous gap between them. Their chase stretches on until Saichi stumbles upon the entrance to a dark cavern, thick red mist seeping out from within. With no other option, he dives inside, the echoes of Saria's desperate scream ringing behind him. As he ventures deeper into the cave, his surroundings grow eerier by the second. Then, at the very heart of the cavern, he finds something, or rather, someone. A skeleton sits motionless upon a throne, its hollow gaze fixed upon him. Without moving, the skeletal figure speaks, its voice eerily calm. It welcomes Saichi, acknowledging the strength required to make it this far. Curious, Saichi immediately appraises the figure and is met with an unexpected revelation. The being before him is none other than a level Dark Lord. He questions how someone so powerful could appear so weak, but the Dark Lord merely chuckles and tells him to take another look. Upon checking again, Saichi's face drains of all color. He had been deceived. The true level of the Dark Lord stands before him. In the blink of an eye, the Dark Lord vanishes, appearing behind Saichi with his blade raised high, prepared to deliver a fatal strike. Time slows as Saichi braces for death, but before the sword can reach him, a figure rushes in. Without hesitation, Saria throws herself between them, taking the deadly blow in his place. Saichi catches her as she collapses, his hands trembling as he holds her dying body. She smiles up at him, her voice weak but filled with warmth, telling him that she is glad she arrived in time to protect him. Panic surges through him as he frantically shouts her name, promising to get her a recovery potion. But Saria only laughs softly, saying that she's just happy he finally called her by her name. Her voice begins to fade, but to Saria, Saichi was the only person who had ever treated her like a normal being, not just a monstrous gorilla. That was enough for her. With the last of her strength, she makes a final request. She asks him to keep smiling for her. The Dark Lord watches their tragic moment with nothing but disgust. But Saichi, filled with unrelenting fury, grips his sword with a new resolve. He turns to the Dark Lord, voice shaking with rage. Saichi vanishes from sight, reappearing behind the Dark Lord and clashing blades with him. His body moves on its own, fueled by sheer emotion. He bellows that Saria was the kindest soul he had ever known, a girl more wonderful than he ever deserved.
She was so kind and had the biggest heart that ever existed!
Oh my, it sounds like you and that gorilla actually...
As he fights, memories of their time together flood his mind. Every moment, every smile, every time she showed him kindness despite how he treated her. The realization crashes over him like a tidal wave, and in that instant, he shouts the words he never had the courage to say before, and as they do, a golden light envelopes her fading body. But Saichi has no time to process it. He conjures his magic, unleashing torrents of water at the Dark Lord, only for them to be devoured by the ominous void the skeleton commands. The Dark Lord sneers, telling Saichi to accept his fate, but Saichi refuses, his determination burning brighter than ever. With newfound strength, he vanishes once again, reappearing just before the Dark Lord and driving his blade straight through him. For the first time, the Dark Lord falters. A strange peace washes over his skeletal face, and instead of cursing Saichi, he thanks him. With his last words, he expresses gratitude for freeing him from this prison of loneliness. Before Saichi's very eyes, the Dark Lord's body begins to glow, and within the radiant light, he sees a vision of the Dark Lord reuniting with the one he had lost long ago. Together, they fade into the afterlife, finally at peace. With the battle over, Saichi rushes back to Saria, cradling her gently. She looks up at him with soft, tired eyes and whispers that she truly wanted to be his wife. Overcome with emotion, Saichi leans in, their lips meeting in a bittersweet kiss. Tears slip down her cheeks as she thanks him, her body glowing even brighter. And then, in the midst of that radiance, a miracle happens. When the light fades, Saichi stares in awe at the breathtaking girl before him. Gone is the form of the gorilla. Standing in front of him is the most beautiful woman he has ever seen. She rushes forward, throwing her arms around him, asking if he recognizes her. The realization strikes him instantly. She is Saria. The entire time, he had been with the most divine goddess imaginable, and he never even knew. Together, they sit and read the tragic tale of the Dark Lord, reflecting on his sorrowful past. Saichi sighs, remarking that, at the very least, they had managed to reunite him with his lost love. They approach the treasure chest hidden in the depths of the cave, and Saichi hands Saria an outfit to wear, ensuring she's properly dressed. The godlike announcer's voice echoes once more, granting Saichi even more power-ups. Curious, Saria asks him what rewards he's receiving. He grins at her, shrugging as he tells her it's simply a gift from the heavens. The announcer's voice chimes in one last time, delivering the final piece of information. The sheer amount of experience he has amassed finally triggers his evolution. As his body undergoes transformation, his eyes sharpen, his voice deepens, and he grows noticeably taller. Excited by his new form, he attempts to flaunt it, but Saria suddenly looks as though she's about to burst into tears. Yes, definitely tears and not anything else, no matter what it may have initially sounded like. She insists that no matter where he goes, she will always be by his side. Before they can bask in the moment, a peculiar creature appears out of nowhere, interrupting them. It rewards them for defeating the Dark Lord, presenting them with what feels like an RPG-style travel set along with brand new outfits. Without warning, the two are whisked away by teleportation magic, landing in a vast, open field filled with lush green grass. Determined to begin their journey, they march forward toward the nearest town. However, their adventure is quickly interrupted when a random slime appears before them. Sachi doesn't hesitate. He delivers a single, effortless strike, instantly obliterating the weak creature. The moment it perishes, he gains experience, triggering yet another level up. A flash of light erupts from his body as his helmet suddenly morphs into a sleek black robe. As he inspects his newly evolved gear, a folded note slips out from within. He picks it up and unfolds it, reading a message from the ever-mysterious sheep. The note congratulates him on leveling up and explains that the helmet, now the robe, has adapted alongside him, serving to conceal just how absurdly powerful he is in comparison to the average person. Before he can process the information, the note promptly explodes in his hands. Shaking off the ridiculousness of the situation, Saichi and Saria proceed toward the town's entrance. Upon arrival, Saichi approaches a local man to inquire about the Adventurers Guild. However, the man immediately warns him to steer clear of the guild at all costs, hinting at something dreadful awaiting inside. Ignoring the man's ominous advice entirely, Saichi and Saria head straight for the guild anyway. As soon as they reach the entrance, Saichi attempts to open the door, only for it to slam shut in his face. His patience wears thin, and he contemplates resorting to more aggressive methods, perhaps even introducing a rock through their window if they don't open up soon. He pushes the door open once more. What greets him inside is pure chaos. The entire guild is filled with lunatics running wild, shouting, and behaving like complete maniacs. Saria peeks inside curiously, but the moment Saichi sees the mess before him, he instinctively grabs her arm, prepared to flee. Before they can escape, however, a towering figure looms over them. The guild master, an absurdly muscular man, flexes his enormous biceps, welcoming them in a booming voice. With each flex, he slowly forces them further inside the building. Once inside, the guild master calls over a woman to handle their registration. She introduces herself as Ares, the guild's receptionist. Seeing that everyone else seems to be having a good time despite the madness, Saria nudges Saichi to go ahead and register. Reluctantly, he agrees. As soon as he does, however, trouble arrives in the form of three burly men. The trio saunters up to him, eyeing him with mischievous grins. Without giving him a choice, they grab him, insisting that he step outside with them for a chat. Saichi quickly realizes that he has no say in the matter as they escort him out of the guild. They lead him straight to another man, a hulking brute with muscles bulging from every inch of his body. The moment they arrive, the men demand that Saichi remove his cloak. With no other option, he obliges, revealing his newly evolved, undeniably attractive appearance. The moment his face and physique come into view, then, to Saichi's horror, their eyes light up with admiration. They declare that he is far too good-looking to be left alone. One of them boldly suggests that he should develop plot with them, assuring him that he'll get used to it in time. What exactly do they mean by that? Without waiting to find out, Saichi activates his full-speed movement and bolts away from them. However, instead of discouraging them, his desperate attempt to escape only makes them more determined. As he sprints for his life, he hears their excited voices behind him, marveling at his powerful, muscular legs. The guild master is thoroughly impressed that Saichi managed to return after everything he went through. Most rookies don't even make it past their first encounter. With that, the guild master assigns them their first quest to earn money and introduces them to their superior, who will be accompanying them, Artoria. Saichi takes one look at Artoria and immediately admires her overwhelming laser blasters. However, Artoria isn't nearly as enthusiastic. She shouts at them, declaring that she has no intention of adventuring with them. The guild master, unfazed by her protests, reminds her that Saichi survived the bizarre bandits, meaning he can definitely withstand whatever catastrophe she brings. Begrudgingly, she gives in and formally introduces herself as Artoria the Calamity. With their party formed, they set off on their first quest, which takes them to an orphanage. As they walk, Saichi notices that Artoria keeps her distance, walking significantly ahead of everyone else. As they continue, a young boy dashes by but stumbles and falls. Artoria immediately moves to treat his injuries, but before she can do anything, the logs stacked behind her suddenly come crashing down. Saichi rushes forward to check on them, but to his surprise, Artoria seems completely unshaken, almost as if she had anticipated the accident before it happened. However, instead of relief, disappointment flashes across her face. They move on to their next mission, this time heading toward the ruins. But as soon as Saichi takes a step forward, the entire structure collapses on top of him. Artoria falls to her knees in despair. She blames herself entirely, as she always has. She has spent her life believing that she brings nothing but misfortune, even blaming herself for the deaths of her parents. She has chosen solitude, convinced that her very presence is a curse upon those around her. Just when it seems all hope is lost, a hand emerges from the rubble. It's Seichi's. Artoria immediately snaps out of her thoughts, but instead of relief, anger takes over. She furiously scolds him for acting recklessly and making dangerous decisions without proper guidance. His carelessness could have cost everyone their lives. After her outburst, she storms off, leaving Seichi standing there, watching her go. Meanwhile, back at the school, training continues. However, even after 5 grueling months, none of the students have shown any real progress in growing stronger.
And for our final test, we must find a dog to walk.
Cool. Easy peasy. You said no, not the wolf! Am I flying? Is she serious with this?
Don't worry, Seiichi. If it looks like you're in danger, I'll step in to rescue.
Later, the guild receptionist asks Seichi and Saria if they have a place to stay. Being nomadic travelers, they naturally do not. Hearing this, Artoria extends an offer to let them stay with her, and they gratefully accept. Their journey together continues, and during one of their stops, Artoria asks Seichi to collect herbs before they return home. While searching, he stumbles upon a group of 3 goblins engaged in a secret conversation about capturing humans. Seichi immediately interrupts them, but the goblins glare at him, realizing that he overheard their plans to overthrow the human world. Without hesitation, they declare that they must eliminate him. Summoning their trump card, they call forth a massive troll. The beast lifts its enormous arm and brings down a devastating blow meant to crush Seichi into dust. However, Seichi has been hiding a special ability all this time, one that allows him to take an opponent's attack and redirect the damage back onto them. The goblins, realizing they have made a horrible mistake, don't even bother fighting back. They turn on their heels and flee in terror. As they retreat, their superior confronts them, demanding to know why they disobeyed orders and ventured into the human realm. The goblins frantically explain that they only wanted to prove their worth and offer more assistance. They also reveal that they have successfully set up teleportation spells all across the realm, leading straight to the Black Dragon God's entrance. Their master is pleased by their evil deeds, but reminds them that disobedience must still be punished. Without hesitation, she brandishes her whip. Meanwhile, back at the guild, the final examination for Seichi and Saria is about to take place. Artoria has been assigned as their examiner. The day begins like any other, and their task seems simple enough: defeat a slime to complete their mission. However, just as they prepare to strike, the slime teleports away before their attacks can land. Artoria quickly notices that there are hidden teleportation spells scattered all over this land. She instructs them to head back to the guild, but in an unfortunate turn of events, she accidentally steps on one of the spells, triggering its activation. Without thinking, Seichi and Saria instinctively grab onto her, and the 3 of them are transported to an unknown location. As they regain their footing, they scan their surroundings in confusion. Seichi and Saria have no clue where they've been sent, but Artoria immediately warns them to stay close. She hands them a special stone, explaining that it will help them locate her if they ever get separated. Before they can even process her words, Artoria inadvertently steps on another stone.
Did that click?
Sorry, I must have stepped on something.
Causing a wall to rise from the ground between them. Seichi panics, throwing his entire strength into punching the wall, only to succeed in doing nothing but injuring his own fist. Meanwhile, on the other side, Artoria finds herself forced into a desperate battle. Bleeding from multiple wounds, she struggles against a relentless mummy. But even as the pain surges through her, she summons the courage to push forward, landing a decisive blow and cutting the undead foe down.
Here too, and here. Is this some kind of joke? How are we supposed to get out of here?
Determined to find her, Seichi and Saria frantically search for a way around the wall. During their search, Seichi stumbles upon a mysterious chest. He decides to ignore it entirely. It suddenly speaks, urging them to open it, before sprouting multiple limbs and lunging toward them. Without hesitation, Seichi crushes it with a single strike. Rummaging through its remains, he discovers a peculiar item, a ring of misfortune, capable of multiplying the wearer's luck by -2. As Saria inspects it, a sudden light glows from within her plot. Wait, no, the stone is now glowing red. At that same moment, Artoria has entered the lair of the dungeon's boss. A colossal dragon looms over her, welcoming her to her imminent demise. Seichi and Saria quickly realize that the stone only glows red when Artoria is in danger. Acting fast, they try to use the guide stone to pinpoint her exact location. However, Seichi, rather than focusing on a plan, simply resumes throwing punches at the wall. Back in the dragon's lair, Artoria is being brutally overpowered. But despite the insurmountable odds, she refuses to surrender. Even as blood drips from her wounds, she remains steadfast in her resolve to reunite with her friends. Suddenly, a crimson aura begins to swirl around her. She declares that she will show this dragon why she was given the name Calamity.
What's this?
Power erupts from within her, altering her form.
I'll turn myself into a raging calamity! Calamity Berserk!
With newfound strength, she hurls herself forward, charging toward her opponent. Frustration burns inside her, frustration at her own weakness. But she forces herself to press on, launching another fierce attack against the dragon. Her efforts, however, are met with brutal retaliation. The dragon's claw pierces through her chest, sending her body crashing to the ground. Lying there, her consciousness fading, Artoria's thoughts drift to Saichi and Saria. They were the only ones who had ever brought her genuine happiness since she had been burdened with this wretched misfortune. A deep breath rumbles within the dragon, and in the next moment, a torrent of flames erupts toward her. She closes her eyes and whispers an apology. But before the fire can consume her, she hears a voice. Saichi, he shouts, declaring that they have come to save her. The dragon, unfazed, prepares another devastating blast. But before it can strike, Saichi vanishes, using his instant movement to reposition himself. He tries to approach the beast, but its raw energy lashes out, keeping him at bay. Activating his appraisal skill, Saichi examines the dragon's level and immediately regrets it. He realizes that he is about to be utterly screwed. The dragon swings its mighty tail, and though Saichi narrowly evades, the battle is far from over. Before he can react, an unseen force grips his body. With telekinetic power, the dragon freezes him in place, and in the next moment, its tail slams into him, hurling him violently against the wall.